Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear students, this is lecture number 3. This lecture talks about the differences between vowels and consonants. If you remember, we concluded our previous lecture with the conclusion that the sounds of any language can be divided into vowels and consonants, which means that the speech sounds of a language are either vowels or consonants, and the number of vowels and consonants actually differs among languages. It's not the same. Not just the number, the nature of these vowels are different. Now, the terms vowels and consonants are very familiar to most foreign language learners. However, to scientifically define these terms is not an easy task. Now, if we start with differentiating between vowels and consonants, first of all, we need to talk about phonetic issues. So, our first classification or distinction between vowels and consonants is phonetically based. That is, it's related to the actual production of these sounds. How are they produced? Okay, now we say, phonetically speaking, vowels are produced with no obstruction to the airflow when it passes from the larynx to the lips. That's to say, the air goes out freely. Again, in the pronunciation of vowels, we don't feel an obstruction to the airflow. The airflow, when it is pushed from the lungs through the larynx to go out through the oral cavity, we don't feel that the air is obstructed, which means there is no contact between the speech organs in the production of vowels. Okay? So, the speech organs are not interfering, are not obstructing, they are not obstacles in the way of the air stream when it goes out. Rather, they don't prevent the air from going out, neither partially nor completely. So we say that the air goes out in a free way. This is clearly exemplified or seen when a patient goes to the doctor. The doctor usually asks the patient, in order to see the back of his mouth or her mouth, the doctors always ask patients to say ah, ah, and ah is one of the vowels of English. So why ah? Why the doctors ask patients to say ah? Because in the pronunciation of ah, the mouth is wide open, and the organs of speech are not interfering the airstream, are not contacting each other. That's why the way is open and clear. The way is open and clear, and the doctor can have an unobstructed view of the mouth, which means that the doctor can see very clearly. You can put the mirror in front of you and try pronouncing the sound ah and make it longer if you can. Then you can feel that your mouth is open and you yourself can see the back of your mouth, the inside of your mouth. This is a proof that the pronunciation of vowels does not require any interference to the airflow or the airstream from the organs of speech. On the other hand, consonants are produced with various types of obstruction to the airflow when it passes from the larynx to the mouth or to the nose. So, in the pronunciation of consonants, there is often a contact between actually two speech organs, which make a kind of constriction in the airstream passage. So the air does not go out freely, it's rather obstructed by different speech organs. And this obstruction usually modifies or model, if you like, the way the airstream and the direction of the airstream when it goes out through either the nose or the mouth. So the air is sometimes completely obstructed, sometimes it's partially obstructed, sometimes it's slightly obstructed. All of these types of obstruction are available, at least in English. So we have various interferences to the air stream made by one or more speech organs. For example, if we have the vowel sound E, the vowel sound E, when we pronounce the vowel sound E, we feel that the airflow is pushed out freely without any obstruction in the vocal tract. Please try now to pronounce E, E. You can clearly feel that the air is going out through the mouth freely without being obstructed by any of the speech organs. Yet if we take T sound as an example of a consonant, we can clearly feel as well that there is the greatest degree of obstruction we have in the pronunciation of T, because the tip of the tongue is raised to be in contact with the alveolar ridge, and this contact is complete, which means that the air does not have any chance to go out unless the tip of the tongue is lowered and the air is exploded out of the mouth. Let's try a T, a T. We can feel that the air is trapped for a short time behind the alveolar ridge before it bursts out with an explosion. While in E, we have the contrary, the air goes out freely. You can move from the pronunciation of E to T and feel the difference. Now let's practice E, T, E, T. You can clearly feel that with E, the tongue is lowered and the oral cavity is clear and the air goes out freely. But as soon as we raise our tongue tip to be in contact with the alveolar ridge, we have a different thing. We have a an alveolar stop consonant. This is an example of a complete contact, a complete obstruction. Now we have other consonants in which we have partial obstruction. For example, the sound f. F. In this case, the lower lip is raised to be in contact with the upper front teeth, but still there is space, a narrow space for the air to go out of the mouth. In some other consonants, like for example, ra, ra, here we have a slight obstruction, and the tongue is almost in a floating position. There is no clear contact between the tongue and the roof of the mouth. But still, ra, ra is what is a consonant. Okay? Now, there are other phonetic differences between vowels and consonants, such as all vowels are voiced, whereas consonants can be voiced or voiceless. When we say vowels are voiced, it means that whenever we have a vowel, we should have vibration accompanying its pronunciation. You can put your fingers on your throat and say E, A, U, O. You can feel the vibration of the vocal cords in the pronunciation of all these vowels. So with all vowels, there is vibration in the vocal cords. But in consonants, we may have vibration with some consonants, and we may not have vibration. If we pronounce the sound d, 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 we can clearly feel the vibration of the vocal cords when we put our fingers on our throats. But in the pronunciation of the sound, the consonant sound, t, 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 there is no vibration at all. So da is voiced, while t is voiceless. These are two consonants. So again, in consonants, we may have voiced and voiceless sounds. But in vowels, all vowels are voiced. In the pronunciation of all and every vowel, there should be vibration in the vocal cords. Now, another thing is that all vowels are oral, whereas consonants can be oral or nasal. This means that all vowels are produced when the air is pushed outward through the oral cavity or the mouth cavity. We don't have a case of a vowel in English in which the air goes out through the nose or the nasal cavity. All vowels are oral. Examples: E, A, U, A, A, all these vowels, in the pronunciation of all these vowels, the air goes out through the oral cavity. While in consonants, we may have consonants that are oral and others which are nasal. And if you remember, we discussed this point when we talked about the role of the soft palate in deciding whether the sound is nasal or oral. Let's take an example. A consonant such as ra is an oral consonant. Why? Because when we pronounce it, the air goes out through the mouth. While a consonant such as n is produced when the air stream goes out through the nasal cavity. So we have oral consonants like ra, like p, b, th, th, sh, j, and we have consonants that are nasals like m, n, and ing. Okay, so this is another difference between vowels and consonants. Actually, when applying the phonetic basis, that is, if there is obstruction or not, on vowel consonant distinction, we conclude that, however, this criterion applies to most sounds in English, it does not apply to all. For example, to gliding sounds such as w and ye. These two sounds are interestingly vowels from a phonetic point of view, because in the pronunciation of w and ye there is no obstruction. You may try yourself pronouncing ye, we, ye, we, ye, we. These gliding sounds do not require any obstruction to the airflow, which means that the airflow goes out freely, which is a feature of vowels, not consonants. So from a phonetic point of view, we can say that w and ye are vowels, because there is no obstruction felt in the pronunciation of these sounds. That's why here we need to go a step further to consider the phonological basis for vowels and consonants distinction, because the phonetic assumption is not enough by its own. We need to go to the phonological aspect. This is gonna be our topic for the next lecture. I have a question for you to think about. Do you think that the pronunciation of vowels is more difficult than the pronunciation of consonants? If why, tell me. If why not? If no, if yes, tell me why. If no, tell me why not. Okay? Enjoy. Thanks for your listening. See you in coming lectures.